Hello everybody and welcome to the Celtic Unrestricted View podcast. My name is Ryan Clifford. Join me in this special, I would call, episode is JP and William Glavin's back on with us this episode. Well, as I was talking to guys before we come on, a lot of rumours about Celtic transfers, and again, we still don't really know if we're going to be playing yet. We'll be playing, but will fans be back in? So there's not really much to talk about regarding the game situation. So we're going to take a wee trip down memory lane. I'm going by for what I can remember because I was only a young pup at the time. JP and William, excuse my French, a wee bit older than me, so they remember some of the games much more than me. But again, this would probably cater for a lot of Celtic fans, older, a bit younger. Go through some of your heroes that we've obviously watched and paid amazing money to go and see. Again, we spoke to one of heroes recently, Alan Thompson. He came on and told us about the Seville era and how it still sticks in their throat, how it ended. But obviously during that time, it must have been amazing to play in and the atmosphere and everything else. And obviously, William, we've spoke before that you went a few of the games and seen a lot of the games. And as much as we might have not won the big trophy, I think for fans, it's something they'll never ever forget.
Firstly, thanks for having us back on, Ryan. It's good to come back on and have a chat. And that whole UEFA Cup run sticks in my memory pretty well. I was season ticket holder at the time. Me and my dad went to the games and used to sit in the main stand, just obviously to the right of the tunnel. So we used to always see the away team subs warming up and down when they were coming down from behind the goal. So an incredible time. We had such an incredible team. That team was just a team full of heroes. I think you touched on that when you were speaking to Tomo. A team of men. You know, that was no understatement with that team. And I was at school at the time, and growing up watching that team, it was honestly like a team of heroes, and it was brilliant to witness that. And it was an incredible run all the way to Seville. I'm delighted to obviously come on tonight and have a chat with you guys and a bit of nostalgia for tonight.
It's for me, William. It's obviously I can still remember even the final. I was only a wee boy. I was 8 or 10 roughly. I can just remember running out in the street, getting off my head, and I was only young. That was probably when I really became a Celtic fan, I would say, because that was one of the, I'd probably say it's one of the biggest things I've seen. And again, as you mentioned there, it's just hysteria about the full run and guys who you would class as your heroes. I know every player's really a hero when you support Celtic, but I think what you said there, mate, they're a team of just absolute legends in my opinion. I know people talk about Neil Lennon and maybe a bad breath because of what happened last year, but you've got to remember when he was as a player, the guy was a very, very good player. As Tom will say, he might have only passed the ball 10 yards, but that was what he was good at. He was good at keeping the ball, slowing things down, and it's maybe a type of player we've not got now as the guy like Neil Lennon to actually do that type of job.
Yeah, he was very effective in what he'd done. And when Martin O'Neill came to Celtic, I remember Neil Lennon being, I can't remember if it was his first signing, but it was definitely one of his first signings when he came up the road from Leicester. And he was so effective. He would just break the play down, act as a screen in front of the defence, win the ball back, and then he would give it to the guys that could play, give it to Didier Agat down the right, give it to Tom on the left, play it inside, to Stilian Petrov. And he was so effective at it. But that was the thing, I think, about the way Martin O'Neill's team played. Everybody knew their job within that team. And obviously Heldon Henrik was banging in goals left, right and centre just about every game as well. But everyone had their part to play in that team. And I think that's why they were such a close-knit bunch, is because everyone knew what their job was and they done it effectively. And that obviously helped the team perform well.
I think JP, definitely William says, it's just every player, as we spoke to Tom, every player knew their job. And the fact that it was maybe, I'm getting for just talking to him and just all the stories you hear, I think they did fancy themselves for early doors. I just think it was under wraps because obviously they were Scottish. And like you say, JP, the fact they went to Blackburn and teams like that and totally basically put them to the post. But again, what was your first early memories, obviously, that run to start off with?
First of all, good evening, lads. My first early memory, maybe the Blackburn game at Celtic Park, and we were sitting, I was sitting in my uncle's house at the time. all the boys were all in, we're all sitting watching the game. And Blackburn, I wouldn't say they outplayed us, but they certainly had a lot of the spell in the game. Damien Duff, David Dunn, a lot of good players they had in their team that night. And they kind of had a barrel load of chances. If it wasn't for, I think it was Big Douglas, he pulled a few right good saves off that night. And a wee bit of the nitty-gritty stuff done with us, because that's what that was. I mean, even when we didn't play well, they knew how to grind the result out, because, as you have said there, guys, they were a team of men, and they had each other's backs, and when they were in the trenches, and they knew every one of them fought for each other. So when they didn't play well, although we would say, we didn't think they played well, they battled. And that was, I think, what was good about Martin O'Neill's strategy was, see if you're not playing well, let's find a way to still win the game, but don't get beat. See the game out. And that was what they were good at. They were good at seeing games out, even when they won won the money. And of course, up pops Magnificent Seven for the winner. And by the way, I don't know what your memories are yourselves, guys, but at that time, that coming, I never seen us getting a winner. I thought it was going to be like a 0-0 draw, because the way the game was going, I'd draw it and all that. If no, Blackburn were probably going to be the ones to score. So I've got to be honest, that watching that, it was like, we might get beat here. But see, after the game finished, right, and I don't know what made me say it, I was a young boy, and I just think watching the team and watching, the grit they had and they had the bit between their teeth, you could see that. I, personally, in the room full of guys, well like that, we're going to the final. And I made a bold statement, and I just says it, I went, we're going to the final. If we can see you, and by the way, Blackburn were a good side then, make no bones about it. They were in the Premier League, they were playing well under a manager in Graham Souness. So they were streetwise, and they knew their stuff, and they had some really good talented boys in their team. So I say, see if we can get that result, and then obviously manage to still win the game, no playing well, we could take on anybody here. And that's the way I felt after that game. So that's probably my earliest memory of it. And then I'm glad my prediction came through and we went to the final, albeit the result wasn't what we all wanted, but it just felt like something special was just about to happen, especially in that Blackburn game at Celtic Park. I don't know about yourselves.
Aye, for me, mate, I can obviously remember the Blackburn team. You had Pedersen, Duff and Dunn and all the guys, and they, as you mentioned, they were a very, very good Premier League team. Maybe with that Coventry, maybe playing something like West Ham or something, maybe something like that. I don't know if that could be realistical. Spanish here. If that could be a realistic version of a team you could play. Or maybe like an Arsenal now, I don't know, not doing it too best, but I think, William, the fact that obviously we started that with Seduva, and I think that was just a shoe-in. I don't think they're ever going to beat Celtic, because normally in the early rounds you do get the odd squib or two. But again, as you mentioned, Larson, Free, Petrov, Sutton, Bulhan, Lambert, Hartson, it kind of kicked off the journey. I know it was a 8-1 victory, and it wasn't the best of teams you played, but it gave you that start of the competition.
Aye, it did, and Celtic obliterated them. I remember at Parkhead. I think, I don't know if the last scored a hat trick or something that night. I think, we obliterated them at Parkhead, and then it was basically see the game out and over in Seduva to the point where it was a very, very comfortable 2-0 victory over there. Blackburn Rovers were a good team then. They were sort of probably mid to sort of high mid-table. They had Andy Cole and Dwight York. I remember that because only 3 years previous to that, they'd won the treble with Man United. Do you know what I mean? So they two were still at their pomp. They were still scoring goals for them. So they were a dangerous outfit. I think one of the things that did happen was it was the men v boys thing from Graham Souness, obviously trying to do a bit of the mind games, and I think that backfired on him, because I think the guys in the dressing room, Celtic's dressing room that is, knew that, listen, we're going to take them here, and we were absolutely outstanding at Ewood Park that night. Phenomenal that night. And I think that was a big factor in the run to overcome Blackburn Rovers. and then obviously going to Celta Vigo, which again was another hard game when we went away there. I think, to be honest, every team we played were a good side, but as you said, I think the players fancied themselves against anybody, and they were confident to take on anybody, especially clubs from England, Germany, Spain, wherever it was. They fancied themselves against anybody, and obviously they proved it in the games they played.
Obviously, you mentioned Blackburn. Obviously, it was only 1-0 at home, and Larson scored.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the second round, and you're getting it's similar to the way. When was the last time, even back in the days, the new, and the kind of way we are the new, when did we actually get? I don't want to say an easy team because teams aren't easy in Europe, but when do you actually get a winnable tie in early rounds with Celtic? It's always hard ties we get now. Obviously, well, Midtjylland, I know recently a better early start would have probably qualified, but the fact that you're playing Blackburn in the second round of that competition, I know back then that was, for me, if what I can remember, the Europa League kind of gets a bit downplayed as a second competition. I think when you look back at the teams that were in it then, I know it was classed as the UEFA League Cup back then. The teams in that division of that set of competition was very, very good. Blackburn, that's what I'm saying, JP. Blackburn at the second round. If you go to something like West Ham in the second round, you've got the new. Are you fucking joking? Do you know what I mean? But I think because of the set of players, as you say, we had, JP, I know Larson scored, and you maybe get a draw and Larson scores. And I still think William, they really does still fancy himself to go to Ewood Park and turn up there. I know in the comments, I generally think that I think now if he soonest, I think he regrets it big time, because I think it basically gave, for me, William, it basically gave Celtic a team talk, even though I think the fans and the team probably already fancied to go there and win anyway. But I think the fact that you won 1-0 and then he's come out with that, it's just gave you an extra motivation to go, do you know what? Is that right? We're going to prove you wrong here, because I think that anybody here talking about it now, that might have been the game. I know there's Anfield and whatever else, but I think that was maybe the game. It maybe gave him an extra inch to go, do you know what? We're going to prove you wrong and especially show you that we are a fantastic team.
It did. And it wasn't just Blackburn that fancied themselves. I think most of England fancied Blackburn, because as JP, you're right. My vivid memory of the game was it was pretty tight at Celtic Park, and Blackburn had a ton of chances. And as you said, Big Rab Douglas pulled off some good saves, and we managed to hang in there. And we got a goal through Henrik, like we normally did. He would normally pop up and get us a wee goal. But Blackburn definitely, they had a good performance at Parkhead, and they fancied themselves at home. And honestly, the English media were stirring it up that way as well. And for us to go down there, and I don't remember the last time we went down to England and won before that, but we went down there and we proved to everybody how good a team we were. And from that point onward, I don't think anybody, including the players, especially and the managing coaching staff, I don't think they looked back after that draw.
Aye, definitely. I think JP, what William says, I think the full hysteria was about Blackburn were going to do this and Blackburn were going to do this, and as William says, it was all of the media here, it was in the media down south. I know I was a bit younger, but I can still remember it. It's one thing I can remember about me being a Celtic fan is I can still remember for years, every year, the media talk, every year, the media is always Celtic won't do this, and Celtic won't do this, and this team will do this. Happens every year. It's happened this year, and it happened back in 22-23. I mean, it's no changed. Yeah. I think, as you say, JP, it was a very, as William says to you, it's a very, very tough game. As he says, you've got guys like Andy Cole, Dwight York, and all these guys, and it wasn't like you're playing a bottom half team. You were playing a top team in England at the time. As you said, under Souness, they were doing okay. Ewood Park was quite a fortress for him, I think, back in the days. Yeah. So I think, as you say, JP, it was a very hard game to play in the second round. But the fact that we went to, as you say, the second leg was just, for me, absolutely same with them. It was men against boys in that second leg.
Aye, definitely. We totally liked to flow with them down there. And you could see right for the half, we were right up for it and right in among them. They'd never get a minute to settle on the ball at all. The way they did at Celtic Park, I don't even think I'd need to look back in the game, but I can't remember many shots Blackburn had, but I don't think Douglas was busy that night at Ewood Park. He certainly, I don't remember any great saves he had to pull off that night. As I say, you've got to look at Alan Thompson as well. He was outstanding at Ewood Park. Some of his delivery was unbelievable. Larsson was totally. He ran the back too ragged the whole night. I think it was. My memory serves me right. Well, you might help me out here with this one. Was it Greg Short that was at the back for him that night?
Greg Short, was it?
Was it big Greg Short, a big number 5, I'm sure.
Might have been, mate. Aye, I'm just trying to remember if it was. I think it was.
I can't remember the guy's first name, but Short rings a bell.
Greg Short, I think it's Greg Short.
I think it was.
He was a big, hard player to play against. He was a tough, physical centre back.
Yeah.
And Henrik made him look like an amateur. He absolutely destroyed him. And the passing move for Larsson's goal, so disguised, and neither one of the boys slips because he thinks he's going the other way and he just slides and Henrik goes through. And I suppose you've got to look as well. I mean, that's a top goalkeeper on Brad Friedel.
Yeah.
And Henrik just
Craig Short. That's who it was. Craig Short.
Craig Short. I wasn't far off. I knew it was either Greg or Craig or something like that. But I knew it, but he was a tough a tough cookie as a centre back. Probably similar to Big Mialby for us in terms of his physicalness and not giving a striker a minute's peace. Ask any other strikers that have played against him, they'll tell you he was really physical, you know what I mean? And that's the impression he gave me when I watched him. And but Larsson, I mean, he sent Big Friedel for hot dogs, didn't he, man? He just sat him down, just went, oh, here, see you later. And the sort he said and all was just unbelievable. He'd actually, see before, they actually get the warning, I think it was like 2 minutes before it. Was it Steve Guppy put a ball here? Yeah. And sort of got on it and he just turned it out of the bar. And it was a sort of same move. It was like a darted run to front of the defender, dink out of the bar. And it was a kind of, and that was a warning. And then he done the same thing for the goal. So, as I say, you need to watch what you're saying. And that just goes to show you don't open your mouth too soon, because if you open your mouth and slag people off, that's what happens. But I'm not surprised we went down there and done what we done, because we'd a top, as I say, they were a top side, Celtic. With the individuals we had, Larsson, you know, I mean, I need to say any more. He's the main man, isn't he? Larsson, Tomo, Sutton, an ex-Blackburn player, played in the Premier League. Hartson. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Lennon, Paul Lambert, absolutely top class. So they were a team of leaders, right from number 1 right up to the striker. So it wasn't surprising when we went down there and done that. But I think what everybody remembers and all is that we thought our season was finished when Basel knocked us out of the Champions League qualifiers. Nobody foreseen that, but then nobody foresaw that happening. But for some reason, after the game at Parkhead, I sat at my uncle's and actually said we'd gone to the final, and I just had a feeling, and then they went down to Ewood Park and done that, and it just they powered on.
It was the usual with the media, isn't it? It's like it's a disaster, and I remember that because Basel were actually a good team. They were on into the group stage of the Champions League and I think performed quite well. Did not have, can't remember who they had. I think they had an English team or something.
They had. I think they had Man United, did they not?
Was it Man United? It was.
Aye, they beat Man United 2-1 in Switzerland. Aye,
that's right. It obviously beat us, and then I think Mo Salah scored a volley, didn't he? Into the top corner.
Oh, that was unbelievable. One of the best goals I've ever seen.
Probably the best goal he ever scored.
It was similar to the boys linked to Celtic just now, the boy Riley McGree. It was just a big looking, not a scorpion kick, but it was just similar.
The volley. I can always remember him hitting this, and I'm thinking to myself, what is he doing? And then off the right in the top bin. So you're
like, they were impressive though, William, as you said, because the Yakin brothers, man, and that Yakin, he was absolutely top quality.
They were good.
They were a good side. They were a very good side then. But everybody wrote us off then, even our media, and that's what sickens me at times. Like when me playing, like go and represent the Scottish clubs in Europe and stuff, I think our media sometimes just can't wait to give us a doing. They can't wait for us to slip up and fail or something, something to happen from just to, here we go, we're going to be able to slag us mob again. And it just, I don't know, it's a bit sad, really.
You're right. I do remember that, JP. I remember it well. I remember the media had written us off. And I remember that the story in the paper was because Celtic didn't get the Champions League windfall money. So somebody had worked out that if they get to the final, they would have to get to the final to earn the same amount of money for that year. And that always stuck in my head, because see, when we got to the final, it was almost like get it right up east. Do you know what I mean? Because they were writing Celtic off financially. It's a disaster and this, that, and the next thing. They had to get to the final, and sure enough, they did. So it was
that's similar to this season when we didn't qualify for Champions League. It's Celtic are in crisis. Andrew's going to get sacked, and they've no money at Celtic. And then a few weeks later, Celtic post accounts. They were minus 20. They were minus whatever, but it still was like 20 odd million or 18 million in the bank profit, and that's not including recent transfers. And then you're spending money the new. And let's be fair, that's what I say. I know we're going to have track, but I'm trying to get back to the media back then saying it's in crisis, and supposedly we're in crisis now, but yet the board, as much as people, I said it in the podcast yesterday, they'll give the board a bit of jip. They've got to give the board a bit of praise here. I know they've had to do it because they didn't really do much the last year or two, but they're batting hands blind. They're giving them money, so we're no crisis. We're no skint. We've got money. The board, as we've said, JP recently, I know William, I know we've spoken about it. Celtic runs a business. Celtic will never be the way they were because they're running a tight ship. Celtic, if they've got the money, what they're spending, they'll spend it because they know they're going to either get it back in some capacity, or they know they're going to get success with it. And I think the way I'm going is, the way I'm feeling, they're spending because they're accumulating that they're going to do something. And that's the way I'm feeling. They're going to sign quality because they're going to get that back. But again, obviously, back to the Seville run.
Yeah.
That for me, as you mentioned, JP, is Sutton either. It always sticks with me that goal sticks with me in that game. And what sticks with me as well, William, for me is the atmosphere that day was phenomenal. I can remember the fans. I can still remember that to this day. It was the full away storm was falling. All the fans were doing there all day. It was basically a derby, Scotland, England. It was built up in the press to be this phenomenal game, and I think how quite easily that Celtic wiped the floor with them. I think that was like you say, it was a bit of get it up east to the media and every other fan in England, because it was a bit of like robbery. It was daylight robbery. We'd done there and just totally wiped the floor. But as you said before we came on, the guys, JP, what you mentioned there for me is phenomenal. That Lambert, right? I still don't believe Lambert gets the credit the guy deserves. He was fast, man.
Absolutely.
He won the big cup with fucking Dortmund, and he came to us. Phenomenal, man.
Yep. Anybody that can leave Scottish football and go to a foreign country and cement your place by only playing in a trial in the team. He played in a trial against, I think it was Bochum, in a friendly. Otmar Hitzfeld threw him in. And he says he never took him out of the team. And guys like Andy Muller and, mate, what a team they were. They were outstanding, that Dortmund team. So any young lad, see, what had happened was Lambert went over there before. He went there, I think he'd been there like 6 months before he actually moved. And he was miles off it, he says. He says it was I think it was it Colin Cameron?
Was it?
I think it was Colin Cameron. It was another Scottish boy, I can't remember who, but I think it might have been Colin Cameron that used to play with Hearts.
Aye.
And he says the two of them went to Germany at the same time for the same sort of trial. I think it was with Leverkusen they went.
Right.
And he says, when into training, man, he says they were miles off it. He says, we were miles away, man. He says they were on a different level, total different level. So he says, I had to go away and get fit and, be ready. Because I knew, and then the move came for him to go again. And when he went, he got put in a trial. I think he scored. I think he won 3-2 or 3-1, I think it was. And I think he scored. And it was after that, it was like, right, you're in my team. Right, you're playing the next league game. I think he says the first game was like away to Dortmund. away to Bayern Munich, and he first 2 minutes he's blittering Lothar Matthäus. So for anybody not to give a guy accolades and say, no, Lambert was one of the best, then you need to go, you're burying your head in the sun, and you either don't watch football, or maybe football's not for you if you've not got that mindset.
I think, William, as JP says, I think Lambert, I'm only going by for what I hear and what I've seen on Twitter and social media, when you ever hear talk about that team, Lambert never gets, obviously you're going to mention Larsson, but I thought Lambert in general for Celtic was phenomenal for Celtic.
He was a tremendous football player, mate. I remember when we signed him, it was before the days of the transfer windows, and we signed him sort of mid-season, I think. I was going to a game and hoping to see him in his debut, and the guy was just a footballer. Do you know what I mean? That's probably the best way to describe him. Just a total footballer. Could pass the ball, could move, could score. Some of the goals he scored for Celtic were phenomenal. That goal against Rangers always sticks in my memory. The one he hits from outside the box and went into the top corner, big Andy Goram's flapping to try and get to it. But and he saw how much it meant to Paul Lambert, because he didn't know what to do with himself when he scored, you know, because as soon as it left his boot, you just like, that's in all day long. But Paul Lambert made his tick, and he definitely done that on the Seville run. He played a major part in the team, and as I said, he was an outstanding footballer for us.
And obviously the third round, Celta Vigo, again, decent team back again, with some decent players. Again, big man pops up again, Larsson for a goal. I think JP, again, that was probably the one. I know Stuttgart was hard and all, but maybe going to Spain with a 1-0, it was a cagey, but I would probably say cagey 1-0, because again, if that happened now, and we only won 1-0 going to Spain, you'd be like, we're going to get beat 2 or 3-0 here. It's just the Celtic way. It's what happens when we go away from home. But I know recently we'll get a bit better. But again, I think they were a decent team, JP, back then. I think that was when maybe Spanish football was starting to get the free-flowing, possession-based football.
Aye, they were, Ryan. They were very, very technical. Something at the time, we were technical, but we weren't as technical as them. But I remember having to do a lot of running, us having to do a lot of chasing, a lot of harrying on the ball, try to get in their faces. The one that clearly sticks out, I don't really remember much about, and this is probably sad, lads, I don't know what you think, but the only one I can remember that played with him was Benny McCarthy.
Aye. Mm-hmm.
And I think it was over there he scored against us, Benny, wasn't it?
Aye, he did. He scored the second over there, that's right.
And I don't really remember much.
I think that's when Benny McCarthy...
I can't remember all the players, but I remember...
I think that's when you said Benny McCarthy. I think that was when he was actually professional. I think that when he was very, very good. I know he went to Blackburn.
Oh, he was. He was, man.
I think he was very good there, JP. You see that?
Aye, no, he was, right.
He was a good player.
William, he came here in a trial with us, didn't he?
Did he, Benny McCarthy?
I've seen photos of him.
I think you might be right. Aye, when he was getting touted about. He was at Ajax, wasn't he? And then he ended up, in Spain.
It was, and I think it was around about maybe... I can't remember if it was Tony Mowbray was a manager or Lennon.
Right. He was in
trial, I think it was at the time, I'm sure it might have been at the time. Remember when Lennon got the job, and then he was linked to Sol Campbell and Jimmy Bullard and a few other players, and then he turned up into training. And I can't remember if he was on a trial or he was doing his coaching badges, but he came to Celtic to do it.
Right, okay.
I can't remember what one it was. It was one of the two. But I remember seeing him in Celtic training here as well.
Right, okay, yeah.
And I just remember going out with him. It was at Celta Vigo. He was class. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was a good player.
But they did have a good side. Again, I think over there, restrict a lot of their play to shots outside the box is what I remember. Because over there we made that a bit more stuffier for them, even over in Spain.
Aye.
I think they probably get maybe a feel the ball at Parkhead rather than they did over in Spain.
Yeah, I think so. I think one thing that sticks in my mind is when Benny McCarthy scored in the away leg, and it's like, shit, are we going to fuck this up here? And it was like nail biting for the next 20 minutes or half an hour. I can't remember exactly when he scored, but I remember it felt like 2 days, to be honest, till the final whistle was getting blown.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'm pretty sure they had a couple of opportunities, or one clear opportunity I remember, that I think they maybe hurt it at the crossbar for point blank range, but you're just like, we had a bit of luck on my side and you need that on a cup run. Do you know what I mean? And it's knockout football back then in the UEFA Cup, wasn't group stages or anything like that. So you need a bit of luck at some point in the games, and we got it that night, and obviously we saw them out. And to be honest, I think I read or I heard that John Hartson said that was the most important goal he scored for Celtic, was in that away leg that obviously helped us get through the next round.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hartson did say that. I think you're right, William. Again, it's squeaky bum time before you score, and then obviously going to Stuttgart. JP, I think Stuttgart was one of the most entertaining games in the run. Shall we say? Obviously, you've won a game 3-1 at home, and you're thinking, because I'm sure we know actually. Again, I'm a bit young, but I'm only going by my memory. We know quite depleted against Stuttgart. Was a few players missing that day?
Larson,
I remember it for
Larson
wasn't there. I think he'd have
broke his jaw. Do you remember that?
That's right. Against Livingston.
Livingston,
Maloney scored, and was that not one of his first games, Maloney?
I think no.
Did he not break through that season or season before?
Maloney came on, but Maloney made his debut for Celtic at Ibrox. We beat him 3-1.
That's right.
It was the one Larson almost went to the corner flag and scored. So he was only, Sean was only 17 then when he came off the bench that game.
That's right.
And then I think that was the following season sort of thing.
Right.
For that run, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I just remember that Larson and two or three players weren't playing that day, and that's why I was like, I can remember there was a bit of Larson's missing, who's going to score the goals and all that. Yeah. And I know we won a game 3-1, and you find Maloney, Petrov, and Lambert. You're thinking, right, good performance, 3-1. I think that was a tough. I know 3-1, William, but I think that was a tough game. Stuttgart at home. I know 3-1 makes out to be. It wasn't, but I think it was a tough game that day.
Yeah, it was. They had Stuttgart had some good players. They had an Andreas Henkel, who we all know, who played right back for them that night. They had
playing as well.
Alexander Kleb played for them
as well. Played for them,
he got a move to Arsenal off that, and Kevin Kirani, who was one of the top strikers in the Bundesliga at the time. I'm pretty sure he scored that night. If my memory serves me right, he scored for Stuttgart that night. So listen, they were a tough, usual German Bundesliga opposition, tough to break down. But Celtic were phenomenal that night, and as you said, I was at the Livingston game, and as soon as Larson goes down and he doesn't get back up, you know there's a problem. Do you know what I mean? Because normally it bounces straight back up again. And he'd obviously had a fractured jaw or a broken jaw or whatever it was. And everyone was like, oh, what are we going to do with Fulton? What are we going to do with Fulton? But the rest of the boys just stood up for it. You know, Maloney and Sutton played up front together, I'm sure, that night. And they just rose together as a team, and we got a really good result at Park Geddon against Stuttgart that night.
And obviously, JP, the away leg was obviously squeaky bum time, 3-2. And that was a big game. I think now, I think the away legs are kind of finished now. The away goals finished now, is it not?
That is now.
They've done away with the goal now.
Back then, obviously, it was counted, and we just scored 3 goals, but you've went. I think we went 2-0 up, do we know?
We were
Celtic did, aye.
2-0 up, and you're flying Thompson and Sutton. And then you've seen 3 goals, and it's squeaky bumped in near the end. But I can remember the 2 goals, JP. And I can remember the goals of Sutton and Thompson. And again, you were brilliant. It's not like Stuttgart 3-2. You're thinking, oh, it was a close game. It was a close game, aye. But the first half, we were really, really good at. I know with 3 goals, and it was a tough game near the end. But 2 goals up, you're thinking, here we go into the quarterfinals. But then, obviously, it's typical Celtic, you give yourself a hard time near the end.
We always leave it hard for ourselves, don't we? It's been around 30 years, time after time. They always leave us nail biting. We've beaten us mega games where they've left us squeaky bum time, man, and that was one of them. But was Thomas going with a flying header?
It was, I think it was.
It was diving header, which was unusual.
I know it was unusual for him. He was bragging about scoring tap-ins. He's right, I know. I forgot to mention him. He scored a flying header. But
he did. Great goal.
Sutton's goal was a good goal. I know that was a well-worked team goal. Great cross, and that was a great goal. I think Agat missed the first leg because something's telling me Momo Salah played at Parkhead.
Right.
And I think just in front of Momo was Jamie Smith.
So that rings a bell, by the way.
Jamie Smith did play it. I can't remember if he started the game, but Jamie Smith definitely played a part. because I'm sure this is when Jamie Smith came into the squad.
Yeah, it was like him and sort of Maloney were the new ones, weren't they?
They were the new kids in the block, weren't they? That's right.
Because they had another boy waiting in the wings, but I thought he didn't get much game time. Young Jim O'Brien, I know he was kind of kicked a bit better.
That's right. I remember him.
And he never get sort of going. And obviously Colin Healy as well. He was another one that was always kind of.
I run about that team.
He get kind of put out, but was Pearson Mace?
I don't remember Pearson being based then.
That might have been the following season then. It was a following season because obviously he played me.
Him there.
No, he wasn't there that season. It was a following season. But I remember us being a bit depleted at Parkhead now with the Stuttgart, and then obviously earlier was jittery stuff, man. It was you kind of thought, here we go, we're candles going out here. You know what I mean? We're not going any further.
It was
I'm sitting in Mongo's bragging about going to finals and all that. Boys are like, they score their third goal and the boys are like, your predictions out the window now, me, man.
Those two away legs stick in my mind of being a bit nail biting towards the end. But again, we rode the luck again, but we done well. We deserved to get through. It wasn't like we didn't we rode the luck and we went through. We deserved to get through those games.
No,
we definitely did. And then obviously we moved on to the next round.
Each game is stumbled on. I think it was good back then, I know, guys. You'll probably remember. The games were a lot. If you couldn't get through them, the games were on the BBC.
That's right, they were.
So you didn't have all this BT Sport and Sky and Setanta and all that.
BBC Sport Scotland, wasn't it? I remember watching the away legs on BBC
Scotland.
Aye.
It was people like Pat Nevin and Andy Walker sitting in the studios talking about the games.
That's right.
Pundits, you know. But it just felt like every Thursday or every Wednesday or every Thursday night it was Celtic were on the telly. That's just the way that whole the whole thing went. And it was like, right, when's the next one? Right, when's the next one? And that's just the way it felt. It was
the thing about sorry, JP. The bit that sticks in my memory about Stuttgart was, and if I'm right in saying this, it was the first time as a Celtic fan of my generation we'd had European football after Christmas.
Aye, it was.
Like after Christmas and we're still in Europe. We normally get kicked. We were normally knocked out before Christmas. So
usually we were getting.
Usually
we were getting beat with teams like FC Kosice and teams like FC Tyrone.
Aye.
Teams like that were used to slaughter us, man. But no.
It felt weird going to a European game. It was actually, we obviously come on to the Boavista game, but that felt weird that night. But it felt weird going to a European game after Christmas. Be like, this is brilliant. Do you know what I mean? This is excellent. In European football, you know what I mean? February, March time, whenever that game was.
And then obviously, one of the big games in the run was obviously Liverpool. The tight game at home of Larsson scored. You're leaving there, going to be obviously Anfield, and let's be fair, I think was it a game before? Was it a cup game before the game against Liverpool? Against Rangers, was that right? There was definitely a game before it, and I think they get beat or they drew or something. Because I'm sure, was it Thompson was saying was it Hartson or Thompson says that they were Martin's team talk before the game. They got them up for it. I can't remember. They drew.
I think we drew against Inverness slightly just before the game.
Aye. I can remember. I can't remember if it was Thompson that told us. There was definitely a conversation recently I've heard, and I can't remember. Was it Hartson done an interview? Somebody done an interview for that team, and he says that just O'Neill that day. In fact, I'm sure it was maybe Thompson on under the cosh. He says it. I think it was Tom who says it.
I gave a team talk his life.
He says just got to that game, going to Anfield that day. We just knew it was in the bag. We just knew. He says warming up and the team talk. He says we just knew we were going to win the game. He says it wasn't because we knew we were the better team and players. We just knew. He says we had a feeling that day that obviously it was a tight game. We start off with at Celtic Park and you're going to Anfield. I think Anfield's probably a bit to talk about at this time because it was a game where, again, similar to Blackburn, you kind of proved, William, that they were big dogs in European football at that time.
The Celtic were phenomenal at Anfield that night, and obviously Thompson with the free kick, putting it under the wall. Like I vividly remember that game really, really well, and we played them off the park that night. We were absolutely brilliant. And then one memory is I've got some family who live in Liverpool who are Liverpool fans, and I remember me and my dad with the house phone. Remember them house phones? Almost mobiles in it. For the house phone, phoning Man's house phone, and shouting down, getting them pelters. Like, what a Celtic, get a bit. And then eventually they took the phone off the hook so we couldn't phone them. So I remember that. I remember Big Hartson just striking that ball, and as soon as that left his foot, you just knew that was in. But we were tremendous that night, and fully deserved to go through. But just to go back to the first leg, I don't know if JP, you'll probably remember this. That night was marred by a certain El Haj Diouf, if you remember, in the first
that's
leg.
Right. Yep.
And that was in my section that night that happened.
Oh, really?
And I remember he fell into the crowd, and I'm sure it was a wee boy or something like that, had basically just almost rubbed his head, as if he was going, it's like a carry on. And as soon as he get back up, I didn't actually see it, but see the noise of him actually spitting. It echoed right through the stadium, honestly. And as soon as he'd done it, there must have been about half a dozen Celtic fans were trying to go into the pitch to get a hold of him that night. I'll never forget that. But the Liverpool manager, there was Gerard Houllier, had saw the whole thing, because it was virtually like 10 yards down from the away dugout at the main stand. And I always remember Gerard Houllier basically going like that right away, get him off the park, basically, get him right up the tunnel. Took him off straight away, took him right up the tunnel. And I think actually Steven Gerrard came out after it, or maybe years later, and totally criticised him for it, gave him dog's abuse about it, but I don't think they two saw eye to eye. I don't think at Liverpool, to be honest. But there's a guy that had all the ability in the world and just completely marred himself constantly with controversy, didn't he? And just obviously thought he was a bit of a hatchet man as well, until Bruni bullied him at Ibrox as well.
Well, that was it.
But that's my. I remember the game was pretty tight, Parkhead, but that's the one memory that sticks in my head about the first leg, was him spitting in the crowd. Man, I've never seen anything like that before. Never have since. Just incredible what the guy. I don't even know what the hell was going through the guy's head, but just for a professional to do something like that, for anybody to do anything like that, to be honest, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I'll never forget the noise it made. It was fucking disgusting. You know,
it was horrible. It was horrible. And as you say, William, it was totally mad with the result, even itself, the performance.
Everybody spoke about
for weeks. Even after Anfield, weeks and weeks, man, it was all El Haj Diouf spitting that wee boy.
That's right. I don't know, he didn't play in the second leg, did he?
No.
I don't think he played in the second leg, and it's probably because of that, I would say. It probably was.
I actually think his days were numbered at Liverpool after that, mate.
Probably. And no wonder they were.
No, definitely. They should have been sacked straight away. Had he been one of my players, he'd have been out the door that night. He wouldn't even get.
I think these days, where's my map here? These days, I think if that happened, I generally think he would get sacked now. I think there'd be a lot more controversy in it. You'd probably find the government probably try and get involved, because they try and get involved in everything else. There'd be a lot of nostalgia about it. I think there'd be a lot of things that would be more criminal than it would be a football matter if that happened now, William. So I agree with you, mate. Again, I can remember it, but again, I can't remember the full. I can remember being a lot of chaos, but again, I was only a young guy at the time, so I can't remember about the game. But I do remember that happening. I think ever since then, I think you're right, lads, that it did kind of scar him for the rest of his career.
By the way, it wasn't the first time. It wasn't the first time he was on the wrong end of the headlines at Celtic Park. He was involved. He was a nutcase. He turned into a nutcase that night. They call it the shame game. The night McCoist and Lennon had a big spot.
That's right.
It all started with him. He mouthed something to Lennon, and Lennon went there to say what was that you were saying. And then after the game as well, if you remember, William, the police are pushing him, and he's still trying to fling his jersey.
That's right. I do remember that.
And he ends up getting a red card for it.
He did, and then as I say, he was a player that broke through and was tipped to be one of the top players in Europe. I remember coming through, and obviously played for Senegal, I think, in the World Cup 2002. But then, as you said, as soon as that happened at Parkhead, his whole career went downhill completely, and he always played on that sort of bad boy sort of ego that he had. But obviously, that's just what some people like, I suppose, in it. Just like El Haj Diouf. So anyway, that was the thing that really stuck in my mind for that game.
Also, as you say, the second leg, the 2 goals. I think that's one of the first time I've ever seen a goal like that with Thompson. Very rarely it's always either ward or the side of a wall.
Aye, put it under.
Because obviously now you see guys sitting down and lying down, basically stop
Aye, that's right. Aye.
Yeah, I don't know why you do it, because it's if it hits you in the head, you've got so heat, you know what I mean? So, but I can remember I can just remember Hartson's goal in the celebration. I think the full crowd and the backroom staff and the players, as soon as I went in, I think they knew that was the game done. That was it done. They were never going to lose for that goal. And it genuinely surprised me, William, that if Hearts never talks about the game again, I think that might be. I know he says the game against Seville was his most important, but I'm sure that's up there.
True.
I'm sure that's up there in these archives.
Probably his best goal, I think. Probably one he's. In fact, I tell a lie. I saw him score an overhead kick, and that is the God's honest truth. I saw him score, and I think John Hartson would ever score an overhead kick, but he did. He scored an overhead kick against Dundee in the league, and that wasn't bad for Big John to do that. But that volley that night was special, and as you said, as soon as it hit the back of the net, it was almost like I can remember sitting on the couch when I was watching it with my dad in the living room, jumping about going mental, and I said to myself, "We're going to win this." Like I'm talking about the whole thing. I believe we could win it at that point. See, when we beat Liverpool, I was like, we're going to win this. We're going to do it. Because you looked at the teams that were still left in it. Obviously, you had Boa Vista, Porto. I can't remember who did Porto beat in the semi-final, JP. Do you remember? Was it a French mob? Maybe. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it wasn't.
Bordeaux or Lyon?
I can't remember.
I don't think it was any of them, no.
Was it no? I'll need to look that up. I'll look up and check it. But I remember at the time saying to myself, I fancy us against any of this. If we can beat Liverpool, we can beat any of this team, any of these teams that were left in the competition. But it was a really special night. And I don't think my aunt to Liverpool ever forgave me for bothering her for the whole 90 minutes. So,
obviously it went to the semi-final, JP, one each. And obviously the main man scores again. You're thinking, squeaky bum time again here there. Obviously Celtic, O'Neill, I know we won a few games, but Celtic in general were not the best away from home. You maybe these days you don't fear as much going away, but a few times you would fear going away to some places. But I think under that team, again, the atmosphere was good in the camp. I know we didn't win anything that year, but the league was close and everything was close. The mood was good, the mood was high. You got to Spain, you won each, but I think as William says, JP, I think the main census was we're going to go and win and do it, and obviously it took a last minute for Larson to do it, and again, it's just for even to get to the semi-final. I think maybe Boa Vista. I can't remember how good they were. If I'm being honest, I can just remember them being decent. I can't mind how good they were because I can remember their stadium was just getting built up. Or there was something in their stadium was getting built up. I think it was a stand or something. So I don't think they've ever been a big club in Portugal, a massive club anyway.
They didn't have any standout players from I remember, but I always remember them. JP maybe remember this as well. They were so organised, well organised, and we really found it difficult at Parkhead to break them down. I remember it being, and the thing that was weird for me about that night was I went to a Celtic game at night and it was still late. I remember walking into Parkhead and going like that, it's still late, this fucking feels weird. Do you know what I mean? I've never been to a Celtic game, like competitive game at night, and it was still late outside, the sun was still up, do you know what I mean? It was strange. But that's one thing that I can remember well. But I think, if I remember right, we had a lot of the ball that night. We just suffered to really get that clinical finish, and then big Josh O'Hara fucking scored an own goal, and you're like, oh, here we go, type thing. Do you know what I mean? But obviously we managed to pull it back, eventually getting the goal. And
we missed a penalty as well, didn't we?
I think we did, yeah. We did miss a
penalty. Henrik missed a penalty. Ricardo saved it.
So he did.
And he was a Portugal goalkeeper then.
Aye, that's right. He was Ricardo.
He was the international. Ricardo. He was the international goalie then.
Aye.
I think he did that other boy Paul Letter as well. He went on and played with Braga after that.
Was that a striker, Paul Letter?
I can't mind if he was a striker, Ryan, or if he was like a number 10, but he was a sort of like.
I'm sure he put.
He was kind of.
Who? Number 9, Pauletta. Is that the same guy I'm talking about?
Pauletta. I don't know. He played, but I'm sure he was in that Boa Vista team.
Was he?
He was a sort of kind of longish, kind of curly hair. at the time when we played them. Similar style to Big Vitor Baia for Porto.
Right, okay. I can't remember.
Sort of number 10, and he was both fit. I know he was really good. You know what I mean? He was one of the standouts.
They were a good team. They were a good team. They were well organised, and they frustrated the life out of us. But as you said, yeah, obviously Larson scored, but I forgot about that. He missed the penalty. That's right.
He missed a penalty as well. So
saved it, aye.
Really does.
Just towards the end, wasn't it? Was that towards the end of the game, wasn't it?
I think it was. I think it was the last 15 minutes of the game, William.
Aye.
I think it was the last 15 minutes of the game. We're sitting at one each. We're going, right, score this. That puts us in the driving seat and earlier. Yeah. All right, okay, one each. You're still, you've still got a good chance. But like I say,
there's always the away goals that worried you.
Aye, there's always a away goal, and then getting there. I just remember getting there, and the game itself was a bit of a damp squib. It was just a kind of a mud scrap, really. And it was a kind of trying not to be too much away. And
I've just looked it up. Was it Pedrosa?
That's it, Pedrosa. That's it.
Oh,
that's the one.
Aye.
That's the one, Pedrosa. Well, I wasn't too far away, but he was the sort of star man out with well-known Ricardo. Like, he was the one to watch out for. And by the way, he was good. You could see he was a player. And I think then he was in his 30s. So you could tell, he was a player. And he had a couple of good. He opened us up a couple of times with a couple of wee feints and jerks and moves, and they had a couple of good chances at Celtic Park out with their goal. And again, a good bit of defending, but you're defending really well. And as William says, Ryan, man, you're like, oh, come on, big man, a wee bit switched on and knock it the other way. You know what I mean? Like, take a touch and knock it, or just lump it to hell with the road. Instead of that, he puts it in the net, and the whole apart kid just went right at that moment, because you're like, oh no. And again, starting to think, is this the one the candle's going out now for us? Because you're like, we've got this far, and things have been going great. We beat Liverpool, we beat Blackburn, we beat Celta Vigo. You think, we beat Stuttgart, for God's sake, we're flung on. They don't let us be the one that we just can't overcome. And then, of course, as I just said to William Ryan, like, we went earlier in the game, it was just a damp squib. It was a kind of. We didn't even have any strat. I remember at one point in the game, like, my dad, what are we doing here? We've no strategy or nothing. It's just get the ball and try and get it to Henrik.
Yeah.
So obviously it was a fluke, really. If you remember the play, I think. Again, it was a kind of couple of slips, and the ball sort of broke to, like, deflects. The ball was meant for Hartson and deflects off one of their players.
That's right.
Into Hartson's pass. I mean,
he almost
I just remember.
He was like toe poked at his left.
I think it was like his big toe hit it, man. And
I wasn't sure if it was in until I saw the ball hit the net. It was almost like, is that in? Or is that the side netting? I wasn't quite sure. They realised it's in, and you're fucking heat on the ceiling, jumping about, going mental. You know what I mean?
Again, I've not seen it, like, until the replay. I hadn't seen the goal because the whole room just leaked up in front of me, man, right in front of the telly.
Do you remember, do you remember the ball boys for Boa Vista that night? All the ball boys would sit with a ball, the ball goes out, and they'd throw the ball back. All the ball boys get the balls taken off them towards the end of the game. So Boa Vista were just playing it out to try and get to extra time.
Slow the game down tactics.
Aye, and then as soon as Henrik scored, and then the kicker, they threw all the balls back out to the ball boys again.
I remember that was one of the goals that kind of ripped the soul out of them, man. It just, you could completely see it. No, I don't mean us, I mean name. Like, you knew they knew that was it. They knew, there's no way we are. And I think Manil threw an extra, did he not throw, he threw somebody on, didn't he, to cover the back? I know he threw an extra defender on as well, just to see it.
He probably did, aye.
I think it was only about maybe 6 minutes to go. It ended up 6 because of the help he added on time.
It was the longest 6 minutes of your life, wasn't it?
I know, it felt like, you're like, oh no, but it was incredible, man. See that emotion in that goal? Yeah. When you knew you were on it. That was incredible. When we got to the final, that was unbelievable.
The other team I just went and checked, and it was Lazio. Because Lazio were you're like, well, if you get Lazio, they'll be the toughest out of the 3 teams that were left at the semi-stage. And then when we beat Boa Vista, the news that came through that Porto I'm sure Porto gubbed them like 4-0 or 4-1 or something. And you're going, what? Porto beat Lazio? Because nobody really knew who Jose Mourinho was.
No,
nobody
no, that's right.
about Porto, nothing. And you're like, what? They've gubbed Lazio? You'd think Lazio would have beat them, and no, they absolutely gubbed them that night. So you're going like, Porto, I fancy what chance against Porto. We've beat Liverpool, we've done this, we've done that. So as you said, the emotions of that Larsson goal in the final whistle was incredible. No, my dad just turned to me going like that. We're going to Seville. It doesn't matter how we do it, we're going, and that's it. We're going to do it. And him and Monk were on the phone each other trying to make plans, book flights, everything else, and everything sort of kicked into gear for that point onwards. Man, it was incredible.
And as you say, obviously the final itself, Endo's obviously didn't win the game, and by all accounts with a few chances. But I think, as you say, William, nobody really heard of Mourinho really then. He was a young manager coming through, and again, for what I'm researched and what I've heard for the past, the Porto team, I know they had a few good players like the striker Del Rey, and they had Deco and guys like that, but there was nobody that was ever talked about as been world class or anything really. There was never really the nostalgia in the papers or Deco did this, or is it Del Rey or Del Rey, the guy up front? He was really good.
Del Rey, wasn't it? Del Rey.
He was really good, to be fair. Again, the full game, I just watched that on the goals that we scored, Larsson's, William. I said it to Tom when we were talking to him in the podcast, that I still don't think, especially that header, man, that header is one of the best headers I've ever seen, mate. Honestly, it's
incredible.
I've still watched it. Some days I'm on my phone and I watch it, and the way he's been doing, it's similar to the one. It's no as maybe as high, but it's similar to Ronaldo's goal in the Champions League final, the header.
The height. It's the height.
It was unbelievable, and even Thompson says, and I kind of said to Thompson, I felt sorry for Larsson that night because
100%.
I felt sorry for the full team because he put in so much effort. But the guy, I don't want to say he single-handedly got Celtic to there, but his goals and the fact his performance in the game and the goals he scored,
he did deserve it.
I think you seen his face at the end of the game, and you see him looking at the cup, and I think he probably says, I fucking deserve that.
I think as well though, I think Henrik obviously wanted to win it for us. See, for the fans, he was like gutted because honestly, obviously we'll talk about the game, but see just that whole lead up to that final and going to Seville, it's one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had, generally supporting Celtic. The amount of people that travelled there was, people are saying, I can't remember the numbers at the time, it was 20,000 or 30,000 or whatever. There was 6 figures in that city that day. 100%, there was like 100,000 people there. Everybody, I was meeting people I hadn't seen in years, do you know what I mean, that stayed 3 miles from me, and I'm in Seville and I'm bumping into them, do you know what I mean? And my dad would meet, and one of the things I remember a lot was we'd stayed in Benalmádena, which was down in Malaga, and we travelled up in two wee Vauxhall Corsas, 5 in each motor, exhaust fucking arse scraping across the motorway, do you know what I mean? But everywhere you looked on the motorway leading up to Seville was a Celtic scarf or a flag out the window. We had the scarves out the window and everything. And it was brilliant. And but one of the things that I remember my dad saying to me, he says, I'm not going to drink today. I'm going to just soak this in. I had a few beers and stuff like that in Malaga at the time. I was coming up for 16 at the time, so I don't think my man was that, so sorry, ma. But we'd went into it, and my dad went, I'm not drinking today, I'm going to soak all this in. And I went, do you know what? I'm going to do the same. And with 2 years at one point, Mum was there on the pub and sitting getting buried and enjoying themselves, brilliant, great. Me and my dad just went a big walk right down the centre of Seville, and it was fucking incredible, the amount of Celtic fans that were there. Like, I mean, fucking thousands, man. I just couldn't believe it. Even the post were saying to us, like, this is mental. When we were walking by this post, a big riot van, they were all tooled up as if there's going to be chaos, do you know what I mean? And there was nothing like that at all. Great atmosphere. And this copper said something to my dad, and they opened up the back of the riot van. There's a big Celtic scarf hanging in the back. That Spanish Polish riot van, the Celtic scarf in the back of it. We were like, this is incredible. We're supporting you. We were supporting you tonight. So I think the players had saw that, and experienced a bit of that because some of the fans had went to the hotel and stuff. So I think the players and Henrik and I think the rest of the team, they wanted to win it obviously for them, but they wanted to win it for the fans because the amount of effort and money that was spent to get there. And even the fans, there's fans that went to Stuttgart and went to Vigo and went to all these other places. And then everyone travelled to Seville, but it was absolutely incredible, honestly. One of the best journeys. The only thing, we just didn't win it, but do you know what? It was still an incredible journey to get there.
And obviously, well, we see, obviously, I don't know, I can't remember. I didn't really go to games, I was at that age, but how was your ticket situation? Was it the same as now, barricaded, or was it, how would you remember?
I didn't get a ticket for the final. I went to all the home games, and one thing I do remember, one of my mates, my mate, Mark Toner, was living in Jersey at the time, and they'd travelled over via France, and he'd said to me, look, I'm going to try and get you and your dad a ticket, but phone me on the day of the game. But see, when you tried to phone anybody, the whole mobile network went down. There was too many calls. Every time you kept coming up saying network busy or something like that on the old phones, on the old Nokias, you couldn't get through to anybody, honestly. And they basically said the network completely went down with the amount of, obviously, call traffic came through. So I never got a ticket. I went and watched it in a park in Seville, this big massive screen. But again, there was, honestly, it was like being at a gig. It was like just a big massive screen up, a stage. They had a band on. Can't remember who played. They had a few bands on, and then everybody could just sit in the park and drink and watch the game. But again, me and my dad never drank, so we just sat and watched it, and everybody else drinking. It was honestly, it was phenomenal. And then I remember we walked. We'd heard that. I'll tell you this quick story. We heard that my uncle's mate and his pal had got a hotel room in Seville for the night. They'd chartered a flight in on the morning and we're going straight back the following day. So we had nowhere to stay in Seville, nowhere to stay. So my uncle's like, well, we'll go to my pal's hotel, we'll get in there, we'll get in the room, brilliant, no bother. So we rock up, must have walked for about 6 miles, no joke. I'm carrying a crate of beer that nobody's even really drank yet, roasting hot beer, walking along about 6 miles. Get to the hotel and then we go, right, we're going to need, it was about 6 or 7 days, we're going to get in ones and twos because we're all going together, we're all going to fucking switch on, we're trying to sneak into this hotel room. Next minute, this bus pulls up, fucking hundreds of Celtic fans start getting up, so we all jump in with the bus and sneak into the hotel. But there was Celtic fans sleeping in corridors and everything, like in the lobby, sleeping everywhere, lying down, sleeping. So we get into this hotel room, and then everybody's trying to pick a place to sleep. I slept behind the front door. My dad was in the bath. There's about 4 of them in the bed. And then the guy who'd bought the hotel room came in at 4 a.m, steaming drunk, opened the door and went, who the fuck's all this in my room? There's about 40 people in this one room. A 1-bed hotel room in Seville. Honestly, the roughest sleep I've ever had in my life, but honestly, it was worth it, mate. It was absolutely worth it. But that was the madness of Seville, mate, honestly.
As JP, as William says there, it's just, I think it was obviously people were all steaming and enjoying the day and whatever, but I think that's maybe a day where if that happened again, you would maybe think twice of drinking because to actually take it in and soak it in. Obviously, William was younger at the time, but that's just days that even if you win, lose or draw, no matter what, JP, I think for any Celtic fan, getting there and just, it's similar to now when you go to even at any away day in Europe. You want to win, you want to see your team win, but it's the atmosphere. It's, as William says, you're meeting people you've not seen in years. I was in Germany recently. I've seen guys I've went to school with not seen in years, and it's just time. You meet people who you want to see, maybe might not see them again, and it just shows you, again, JP, what William says about the police and the fans, it was just an absolute incredible atmosphere and an amazing time to be there.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was just the feeling, even going to school. But see, like being a Celtic fan and going to school, and you know your mate was a Rangers fan, and what a feeling it was. Like, look at the state of you, man. Imagine supporting them. We're in the European final. Do you know what I mean? And it was just, even the banter then, it was magic. You know what I mean? My dad, as William says, I think it was fucking one BT cut. It was BT Cellnet. I think everybody had away back then. It was a one phone network.
Telefonica.
Telefonica, aye, right. It was when you went abroad. It was one of the dial-up internet she used to have, man. It was like fucking £40 an hour.
Yes.
5,000 pesetas for 2-minute calls. You know what I mean? But no, I mean it was just magic. It was, what a feeling, honestly. And that whole tournament was just one buzz. The lot, there wasn't even a high or a low. Even getting beat, right? I know we lost the final, right? But they done us proud. They did, man. They did. They went away, and there's a way to get beat, right? And that's it. See, if you get beat like that, you can't really. You gave everything. You know what I mean? You've left everything on the pitch. There's a couple of wee things, you know. Mourinho had them all fucking well drilled. I mean, they were play acting and all that as well, probably. And they were cute that way. But they did have a couple of good players. I mean, Deco was only young and all, but he was good enough. Derlai, as you said, I think
Ricardo Carvalho played at the back for them, didn't he?
Carvalho was at the back. Vitor Baia was a goalie. I think the boy Castinha in the middle of the park. I know he was a good player.
Manish, I think, as well.
Manish, he was a good player. I know.
He was a very good player as well.
They did have a good team. I'm not going to write them off and say, you know.
I'm sure Boss Swingham was on the bench as well.
Aye, probably was.
But sort of under the radar, they weren't like, as William says, they weren't like, everybody was shocked when they beat Lazio. And then you go, I forgot it was Lazio, but I knew it was a shocker of a result when it rang through. And it was like, never expected that. Either way, like, and then when you go and do your homework and you find out he's worked with Bobby Robson at Barcelona, and you don't know all that until you're not thinking that, because we're Celtic fans and Celtic are in the final, so you're not really getting that. It was a kind of, we'll
still checking the scores on CFAX and bloody teletext, but we don't even our phones, man. We didn't have phones to look at or nothing. That makes you sound old, doesn't it, when you say that?
I know.
Really old.
Remember the old audio when the guy was doing a commentary. He used to ring through, but he used to do it like every letter.
Aye.
Man, you'd be like that. Be as well wishing me happy birthday again, mate. Come on, you know what I mean? The time you get here. It's my birthday yesterday when you started talking about us result, man.
I know.
I've still to go in Monday. But no, it was what a feeling. It was just that whole day, the final. Just the weather was brilliant there. The weather was even good here.
Was it?
It was magic in Glasgow, aye.
It was roasting there, I remember.
The whole of Glasgow was buzzing, man. But everybody was all spray painting their hair, and as we spoke as well, like Baird's Bar had a party and all that. They'd sand all the pub, and the whole of the Gallagate was all running about with Malibu shirts and all that on, and it was meant. Do you know, by the way, Halfords were sold out of bikes?
Really?
Cycling to get to Seville. People like that, come on, we'll just away we go.
People from everywhere. The people were coming from everywhere.
I guarantee you there'll be fake tickets and probably people sneaking on planes. Anything dodgy. Fake tickets. Anything dodgy, I think would have happened that day. If it was.
Ryan, there was
Scott
fake
that was on me.
I
remember Scott that was on me, Scotty Offer, and he mentioned it, didn't he? He said, but there was a couple of fake tickets going about him and his mates that day. So
at the stadium and stuff like that, there was guys selling them. I remember, and they were trying to sell them for like €500 each or something. Do you know what I mean?
The ticket was the stadium, and somebody got to be my seat here. Is it? You know?
Aye, it was mental. But there's so much of that day that's just sort of vivid in your memory because just to how it was, and it was just incredible.
I've heard stories of guys like my dad's party and stuff, and they went there and they jumped a big wall. There was a windy led into the stadium toilets, and there was guys hanging out the windy trying to get you in to lift you up out of the wall, and you had to wait till the sort of police horses went away like, along the fence and all that. Once they went, I wonder. These boys were just, it was mental, but you could just picture, like, one of the stadium was bouncing the way it was as well. But then obviously we've not really went on to the actual game itself, and apart from when I said the play acting and that there, but the game itself, I thought we were outstanding. I really did. I thought we were really good, considering how warm it was, and a lot of your boys were all didn't take a tan too well, and
roasting that day. I remember that day, and it was sort of early evening. The game sort of kicked off, if I remember right. It was like 7 o'clock. It was still roasting.
Aye. So I hadn't even hit the cool bit yet. You know what I mean? Of the night.
No, it was roasting. I remember that very, very well.
And I remember we started in the front foot quite quickly, and then they came into the game, and again a couple of daft decisions, like a couple of passes that should have went one way, didn't they? And they've intercepted the ball and it just broke away, and the boy Della, he scored. And then Big Douglas makes instead of palming the ball in the post, he puts it back across the box. That's schoolboy stuff. You never ever, like, you always try and get it round the post if you can. If not, try and get it away out of the, you don't put it back into the danger area. And again, a couple of wee decisions maybe didn't go over right and that sort of way. But as you said, Ryan, Hennick's, especially that second goal, that was unbelievable. The ball for a gap was frightening as well. I think a gap played a 1-2 with Paul Lambert, if I'm right. Slides it as William says earlier on, he was good at that. You know, slide pass in behind a defender, and a gap obviously being a gap. He was fastest I've seen. I don't think I've seen anybody as quick. And to pick Henrik out, and then Henrik, he must have hung there for about half an hour. It just felt like he went up, and I'm like, he's going to miss time, this ball, and the ball's going to get his feet, and he's going to kick, but he just stayed there like that. It just floated. It was like the Matrix when it stops. And Henrik's just hanging there. Next minute, he just back across, big buyer off the post in. What a goal. Probably one of the best goals I've ever seen him score.
Definitely. It's just...
Tomo says, I know, he couldn't miss the first one. That was put right to his way. Tomo over the corner.
Just for me, as you say, guys like Tomo, Petrov, that full team, Hearts and Sutton. Well, Hearts was even playing. Sutton, just, I think William, it's just the full thing that they lost the game. That's probably only sitting on, or how we lost it, obviously, with a bit of play acting. Again, you call it cheating, right? But if that's you, it's called experience and being cute. Let's be fair. If that was us in our fit, you would date everything to win a game of football. It's cheating and it's no right, but it's the nature of the game now. When it happened now, because it would be absolutely scrutinised by the authorities and the media. But back then, it was all right today. It was fine. It wasn't.
It was the way the Europeans done it. It was the way Europeans played football, mate. And at that time, Celtic weren't really used to that, and we didn't really experience that from the sort of teams that we'd played against. Played against Celta Vigo. There was a wee bit of that in that game as well. I think the referee was in the home leg was a bit mental in that game, if I remember right. There was just some decisions that were crazy, but they were doing a wee bit of play acting. So it was a Spanish way, the Spanish and Portuguese sort of way of playing. And obviously Mourinho had his players well drilled into the arts, the dark arts as they call it, of the play acting and whatever else. So listen, they just killed the clock completely for us, and we just didn't have enough time to get ourselves back together again, But listen, they've done as proud as JP said. It was an amazing time and amazing memories from that period. As you say, well, there's a lot of things you could pick about what we've done wrong or whatever, but it's very, very hard to be critical of the team because, as you say, they weren't really, for the start of the competition, there was probably something you'd have dreamed of, a Scottish team getting to a final again. Yeah. Probably similar situation now. If we ever go to the final, we'd be all the same because we're not expecting to get to that far. Even this Conference League, you're not expecting to get there. It's just, I think, obviously, as a young guy, I can still remember when Larson scored every goal Larson scored. I was out in the street running about shouting, whatever I was shouting. I can't remember shouting. I was just getting off my nut. I can still remember it to this day. And even my dad's like, you need to get in, it's too cold. You're only a wee guy. Like, I can still remember it to this day. And I'm still the same now. Even if I'm sitting in my dad in the house, still jumping up down like a wee boy. It's just football, and that's what you do. And I think overall, for that run, it's something I don't think we'll ever forget, JP. I know we get beat in the game, but
I think what's good to mention as well, Ryan, is Beach Ball Sunday. When we went to Ibrox, and we flooded the place with beach balls and sombreros, and that was magic, man. This is what I'm saying about the banter and just the general feeling. It was just totally magic. To, like, when we were in Seville, you'll be watching the ball and all the daft sayings. It was, it was happening then, and mind take the Emmerdale omnibus because we'll not be home in time. And it was just all magic. And as William says, they did days pride and all. Do you know what I mean? And I can't fault any man in him at all. I really can't. Even I probably clutching at straws there. I was saying a couple of decisions in the game, as in forward perspective, like Big Douglas making a couple of mistakes, and Big Bobo gets sent off, didn't he?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
And even I mean, for that challenge, but people love their scapegoats, and he was the sort of scapegoat that night. It was Bobo at Celtic Jimmy's, and that's how we lost the game. And it wasn't. It was just we'd put a lot into this, not just that game, but we'd put a lot into the season. I think it just eventually took its toll on us, and as William says as well, like Henrik was just. I actually remember Henrik's interview after the game, and he gets interviewed with a medal, and his words were, "I didn't fucking come here for this." He done that, he pulled it off his neck, and he was raging. You could see he was walking by this, and he's got to walk. Then he had to walk by the trophy, and you could see he was angry. You know what I mean? You could see he was fuming, and rightly so, because when you score 2 goals in a final like that, then I think to yourself, right, you've got a right good chance. You're going to win this year. And so did we, by the way, so did we. But I think when it went to extra time, as I say, it just eventually just took its toll on them. And again, Peter Dutton, as William says, they had all the play acting and all the tactics done to a team. It just gave us a, once the third goal goes in, it gives us a mountain to climb after that. But the overall feeling of it all was just magic, man. It was, I wouldn't have traded, I know we didn't win the league that season, but then, like, we lost the league, and I was still, for me, that was still a successful season. I know we're probably sitting here now, and people are going like that, use off your head, but it was. What a feeling! I've never felt like that as a Celtic fan. I don't think I ever will again unless we get to another European final.
Aye, I think you can obviously go and win 9 in a row and trebles, but I'm not saying you're expected to do that, but it's more inclined for you to do that than you would get to European final, because you're playing against your domestic and you've got the highest budget and blah blah blah. But let's be fair, doing what we've done recently, take away last year, is frightening. And again, as I say to you, like JP, we don't get sometimes the credit we deserve. Still don't think we get the credit we deserve for winning 4.
No chance.
I don't think we ever will. But obviously, William on the last in the final. I think as well, maybe the heat did take its toll as well. I think that was one big thing as well. The heat was massive, as you say, you were there yourself. Guys sitting about drinking in the streets were cooking their mind playing 90 minutes at that intensity levels. So
it was, mate. It was the hottest I've experienced it in Spain. I always remember saying that to my dad at the time, because we were walking about Seville, and honestly, it was absolutely stifling. And to be honest, we were told that from people who like Scottish guys that had lived in Spain, we met in Malaga and stuff. They said, by the way, Seville's really, really hot. It's a hot place. It's inland, blah, blah, blah. Be prepared for it. You know what I mean? Make sure you've got the sun lotions packed and everything else, and you don't be stupid and just get pished and sit and get burnt all day. Do you know what I mean? So no, it was, and it was stifling at night for the kickoff. It was still stifling hot. So I'm pretty sure it did play its part. The Portuguese would have been used to it. South America, a lot of South Americans in that team would have been used to that. So it definitely did play its part. But listen, we almost got there. We just didn't quite do it. But as you said, it was an amazing time, an amazing experience, even though we didn't win it.
I think if that, again, as you just says, if it ever happened again, I think you'd be the same situation. I think it might be even more than the total that I think, because let's be honest, for us to do that again, it would be, I don't think there's words we can even talk about it, because it'd be sensational. I think there'd be a lot of fake tickets then, and fake vaccine passports, a lot, there'd be everything happening. I just think overall, I think it's been good to talk about it again. Obviously, the final might not the best of memories, but every corner, I think it's got a pro, and I think the pro was we go to the final. You've seen these guys play football, and you've seen some obviously top players playing against you, and getting to a run that might never happen again, which if I see again in my generation and my lifespan, phenomenal. The fact that we've lived through it. Some guys who have lived through winning the competition, the big trophy, they've seen that. And again, I hope maybe we can see something like that in your generation. I don't know if we will, but again, we can always, in football, as I say, JP, football can change like that. Never known football, what can happen. Football,
it's a funny old game.
But I think it's brilliant to kind of talk through this, and I hope people who are listening on YouTube and watching YouTube and listening on the platforms enjoy as well, going through their archives and obviously through their families, and like you say, William, with your dad and stuff, and just it's phenomenal memories. But again, guys, thanks for talking us through this, and hail and take care.
Hail, lads. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having us.